What's going on, Growler fans, and welcome to our holiday edition of the Doghouse. I'm Chris Ballard. He's Kyle Curtis. That's Brady Reed. And today, since it is the holiday season, we're going to take this opportunity to look back on the opening half, the unofficial first half of the season. Sure, it's only 26 games, but a lot of action jam-packed in those 26 games. So we're going to go through it, relive some of our favorite highlights and memories from those first 26 games. And we'll do what we can to tee up what's sure to be an awesome unofficial second half of the season when we get back underway on the 27th of December on the road against the Trois-Rivières Lions. But hey, we've got all year to talk about the rest of the year. 26 games doesn't feel like a lot, but when I was making my list before coming on here this afternoon, man, did I come up with a lot of stuff. So what comes to mind, I guess, for you guys first when you kind of try to think back on the first 26 games of the season here?
Well, obviously, the opening weekend was just amazing. 3-0 to start the season at home, scoring 7 goals the first night. I mean, just a great way to start the season and get everybody back into hockey for the rest of the season. Yeah,
no, that certainly came to mind for me as well. And with that, obviously, comes so many first pro goals. You get a team with so many young guys on it, and every year, I actually did up like a spreadsheet of all of the first pro goals I've ever called in my career. It's like approaching 100. It's ridiculous. Even just on this Growlers team this year, there's like almost 10 we've seen. And this is all in the kind of baked into the first weekend of the season for the most part. Grant Cruikshank, Jackson Berezowski, Brock Caulfield, Tyler Weiss, Tate Singleton, Jacob Modry, Nolan Dillingham, Ty Voigt, who I'm sure we'll talk about a little later on, plus because they were memorable in their own rights, I also have written down the first ECHL goals for Corey Dennis very recently against his former team on the recent road trip to Adirondack. I love when guys score big goals against their former clubs. You got to love that. And Alex Koopmeiners, the veteran, journeyman, scoring his first ECHL goal on that same road trip, or a couple more. Any of those goals in particular jump out for you guys? I know that's a lot of goals that we've scored in the early parts of the season. Any ones in particular jump out at you as far as first pro goals?
I would say maybe that first game where Weiss had the 2 goals, you could really just see the talent on display. And then he had a bit of a stretch where he was struggling, and you were just waiting for him to refine that. And I think he kind of has in the last couple weeks. But yeah, it's always fun to just see the parade of guys. Just not a lot of pucks left in the penalty box at the end of the night. They're all taped up and ready to go.
You love to see it.
Getting horns busy in the room, getting everything ready for the guys. And we just had such a young group. We kind of knew that was inevitable. Some interesting stuff going on.
Sure is.
It's a live show, people.
Hey. That's the way she goes.
Showbiz. Yeah, no, I think, when you have a young team like this and going into it, it was inevitable we were going to see a lot of milestones, but maybe not that quick. So that first weekend was a lot of fun. Yeah,
the one that jumps out in my mind is Nolan Dillingham's, just because of the way that he scored it. Yeah. It was the day after Tim Stutzla scored that crazy bat-in goal, and it was like a carbon copy for his first pro goal, and it happened like a day later. So that one,
2 in that game as well.
Yeah, he
right?
did. Yeah, and the second one was a bomb from just inside the line too. So some goals. I mean, no disrespect to any of these fellas, who I'm sure they'll remember those goals forever. Yeah. I've only got so much room in my brain, and that's one Dillingham's I'm going to remember for sure. But for me, this might be a bit of a cop-out as far as moments go, but I think we really saw a bit of a turnaround for this team when, in kind of a 10-day span, we saw the return of Isaac Johnson, Luke Cavalin, and Zach O'Brien. So for me, that is kind of maybe the moment of the season so far, and I think the numbers kind of prove that as well. The team was 5-5-2 before those 3 rejoined the mix, and have since been 8-5-1. So certainly an improved squad with those 3 on it. And I know, again, it's a cop-out, but that's a big moment for me in terms of having my heart rate go down to say, okay, this Growlers team's going to be just fine.
Yeah, and getting a guy like O'Brien back is only going to stimulate the offense, too, that was a little bit struggling bit to start the year, and he really revitalized that power play when he came back. I believe 4 or 5 of his goals right now are on the power play.
That's a good point.
He has a number of power play assists as well. He's really came in and taken a stranglehold to that power play unit and has made it a lot more effective.
I would say that road trip to Boise where they took 2 or 3.
Big time.
you look, the Steelheads are still first in the league despite that. They've only lost like 5 games or something.
Unreal.
The fact that 2 of those were us in their building, the end of a really long road trip, felt like a season in itself, that road trip, honestly. That was a bit of a character moment for this team. And it did coincide with the return of a lot of those guys you just talked about. I'm sure that's not a coincidence. But again, like you see, they came home after that. We had that quick series with Maine. Just felt like a group of guys that was a lot closer, a lot tighter.
No, I think you're absolutely right. So between Luke Cavalin, Isaac Johnson, and Zach O'Brien, I mean, the question for me becomes to the group, maybe it's these 3 guys, maybe it's someone we haven't spoken of yet, but who do we think has maybe been the Growlers MVP to this point of the season? So while you guys think about it, I will give you my nomination, if you will.
Sure.
And I think it's Luke Cavalin for me. You know, the team defense was a bit of a iffy spot maybe to begin the year, but Luke Cavalin came in from day one, returning to this squad after starting the year with the Marlies, hadn't played, came down, immediately set a team record for saves in a game. And for me, that just had me licking my lips, knowing I'm like, oh, here we go. If Cavi's this dialed this early in the season, well, from there, he went on. He currently is tied for the league lead in shutouts with 2. He's 6th in save percentage with a .918 save percentage, despite the team's persisting defensive efforts, not trying to throw stones here. But I think that they would agree, the locker room that is, would agree there's still maybe some work to be done from the blue line in. You know, those 2 shutouts, I mean, 2 big wins, still tied for the league. He's currently on a 5-game win streak. He's won 7 of his last 8 starts. 5 for 5 in the shootout to really help the Growlers lock down a couple of important extra points in a division that's a lot tighter than we've seen it at any point in the 5 years the Growlers have been in the North Division. So for all of those reasons and more, he is my choice for team MVP so far, but I know there's certainly a handful of serious contenders this time around.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a blue liner here. I'm going to go with Johnny Tyconic. He's just been phenomenal this season, has really showed his ability to quarterback an offense from the blue line, has taken a hold of the power play unit as well alongside Zach O'Brien. I believe he has 21 assists right now out of his 24 points. I think 11 of them have come on the power play, correct me if I'm wrong. But, I mean, he's just been a phenomenal player. I mean, improvement from year to year has been drastic here. Like, from last year in the playoffs, he really came into his own, and now through the first 26 games of the season, he's shown that, you know, he can be a great defenseman here, not just in the ECHL, but even higher up. Oh,
yeah, very high ceiling. Yeah, 24 points in 26 games. For a defenseman to be leading the Growlers, not just a team, but this team in scoring at the unofficial halfway point is really impressive. Not to mention, I almost agree with you. His 5-point game in Reading on November 18th really sticks out to me. Set the Growlers franchise record for points in a game by a defenseman. That tied the Growlers franchise record for points in a game by anybody. And for that to come off the stick of a defenseman. And let's not forget, technically, this kid's still a rookie. He's doing all of this at, I think he's 24, 25 years old, like unbelievable stuff for his first full year. So maybe we got co-MVPs, or maybe Brady can convince us of someone else.
I mean, both strong cases, but I think for the sake of entertainment, I'll throw another name in the hat here, Isaac Johnson.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at his numbers since he joined the team. As far as points per game go, pretty well at the top of the league.
Yeah.
You've got one guy on Kalamazoo who's just a notch higher, and then another guy who had a stint with us, Ty Voigt, he played 5 games, collected 8 points. I'm sure we could probably touch on him, but I just think Isaac's like highlight reel since he's joined us.
Unbelievable.
Like his YouTube tape would just be like the amount of primary assists and goals. Like, it's one thing, you're gonna pick up points. You're playing with Zach O'Brien's and Brock Caulfield's and Ty Voigt's, but like the nature in which he's doing it. Like,
it's flashy as heck.
Yeah.
And his elusiveness is at like an 11 of 10. He's the kind of guy, he'll dash down the wing, slam on the brakes, 2 or 3 defenders will miss him. And that he's creating so much space for himself and his teammates. It's ridiculous.
He's so fun to watch, too. Yeah. He's got the puck on a string out there. It's like us up in the production booth, and we see him pull off a move like that. We're like, "Ooh, that was nasty."
And this is a guy, too, though, that, like, I mean, this would be his 3rd year here now, partially.
Yep.
And just the development with regards to like 200 feet.
Big time.
He kills penalties.
Yeah.
He makes those plays we're talking about. Like, they might be low percentage plays, but he's making them in his own zone to kill 20 seconds off of an opposing team's power play. So you want to talk about a complete player. He's only played 14 games. He's got 21 points. He's right up there with the Giant Iconics and the Jackson Berezowski, the Grant Cruikshank. We should mention those guys. They're having a heck of a rookie year as well.
Most definitely.
Good problem to have if we have multiple candidates for this MVP race.
No, and for years, I don't know that the Growlers really would have had. I think there's always been kind of one or two standouts. I mean, Zach O'Brien last year, you probably could have had the conversation about Pavel Gogolev as well, setting the team, in the first year. I mean, O'Brien could probably be it every single year.
Yeah.
Maybe you could share it with Michael Gartag from the first season, but maybe this is the year Zach O'Brien is dethroned as the perennial one. Maybe he'll finish second in voting, but this is all unofficial, of course. We're just having some fun. But anyone else in that mix? I mean, Zach O'Brien, we could talk about him. 16 points in 15 games. I feel like he's just getting started. He had the shootout game winner in Adirondack on December 13th. He's 2 for 2 in shootouts. He has points in 10 of 15 games as a Growler this season. And for some reason, I still feel like he's got a chip on his shoulder. I still feel like he has not yet perfectly acclimated to being back with the Growlers. So for me, I am absolutely thrilled to see what this man is going to do in the second half of this season.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great to see. It's just, getting chemistry back as basically a whole new group since he came back.
Big time.
I mean, he's through 10+ games now, and he's playing phenomenal, 16 points. So it's going to be really exciting to see what he can do once he finds his line mate, because he's so used to playing with Oren Centazzo too.
True.
And he really doesn't have him this year. So trying to find that Oren Centazzo, I think, will really help him this season.
No, I think you're right. And one of the last times I chatted with Zach was during the last homestand, and I wanted to pick his brain on Ty Voigt, because I thought he and Voigt, the Maple Leafs prospect, played a very similar game, pass first playmaker style of game. So when I asked Zach, I'm like, you guys do play pretty similarly, don't you think? And he agreed, and he was like, yeah, except this kid's like 11 years younger than I am, and his ceiling is a lot higher than maybe mine ever was. But a very Zach O'Brien-esque talent who performed very well in the in a Growlers uniform.
Yeah.
Well, 2 goals, his first two as a pro, 6 assists, 8 points in 5 games. Probably not going to see him again for the year, but it is kind of tantalizing to now know that should he become available to the Growlers come playoff time, he has reached his threshold to come back down. But whether we see him again or not is kind of a moot point, but man, oh man, is he among maybe the greatest to ever, the most skilled to ever put on a Growlers uniform?
Without a doubt. Yeah, I mean, I think Matt Cook put it a really good way. He said, there's guys who you appreciate on your team who will always make the safe, smart play. There's guys who make low-risk plays, and if they've got the skill to pull them off, it's nice to have. And then there's Ty Voigt, who will make a play that literally nobody else on the ice could have even thought to make.
Right.
And if you watch the 5 games that he played, it's pretty easy to agree with that.
And the play for me that, I don't know if you guys remember it as well, when he set up Isaac Johnson for the hat-trick game winner.
Yeah.
The first hat-trick, the only hat-trick for the Growlers this season belongs to Isaac. Another dash in the category for Isaac as MVP. But that pass, the vision to kind of catch the defender kind of between positions and to put the puck where Isaac, not where he was, but where he was going to be, like that vision, you don't really see a heck of a lot of it at this level of hockey. And that just told me right in that moment, I'm like, oh, this kid's the real deal. His ceiling is absolutely sky high, and don't expect him in a Growlers.
Weight of the pass, that was
absolutely perfect.
Brad Gouchou on the button. Isaac just arrives, does the rest. But no, I just think the thing with him is you look at his junior numbers and the splits of goals and assists. You could obviously expect the playmaker to come in. You got those Joe Thornton type numbers, but what a shot he has as well.
Right.
I mean, he ripped 3 off the post
in that
crossbar
one game against Maine. It felt like,
So I think he'll figure that out too. As he's going to get bigger and stronger. He's 20 years old.
Unbelievable.
So I mean, he's born in 2003.
And to look that good playing against men is certainly a sign that the Leafs might certainly have something in Mr. Voigt.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can move on from that point. I think we'd be remiss if we also didn't talk about the new captain of our Newfoundland Growlers. That was obviously a cool moment. Todd Skirving really paid his dues, did everything you could ask of a player through the first 4 seasons with the Growlers, getting the captaincy from James Melindy, his return, also a big moment in this season back in the early part of November, but a changing of the guard of the leadership group, and certainly no one more deserving than Todd Skirving.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you. He's been a great mentor to all these young rookies coming in. Like we've alluded to, we've had a lot of young guys this year, and having such a veteran who's played in the league for such a long time in Todd Skirving to be our captain and kind of show these guys the ropes, I really think has helped our team's mentality so far this season.
Yeah, I mean, you wonder what kind of influence he has on these guys and maybe what kind of relationship he has with them. You see the play at the end of our last game. Tyler Weiss is a young player. He could be looking to rack up his goal total, build the Hockey DB page. He's looking for Todd. He sets him up. He knows Todd needs one. And, like, to have a young player looking to make that play for number 15 to just go into the holiday break with a smile on his face.
Makes you feel good.
It just goes to show you, right? I think that's kind of the example he sets for some of these guys.
Yeah, no, and he's clearly got the respect in the room. And that this is all signs that, at least to me, point towards a very successful second half. Admittedly, there were hurdles that this team got over in the unofficial first half of the season, and there was a lot thrown their way as well. But there's a few more things I have highlighted here that I feel like we are must mentions. So we talked about Ty Voigt first and his quick ascension back to the American Hockey League, calling him maybe the most talented player. I know this wasn't specifically a Growlers moment, but I know it made so many people around this organization feel so good to see Bobby McMahon score his first NHL goal with the Toronto Maple Leafs not too long ago. A beautiful goal after he got robbed of a few kind of late last season into this year. Just to see the celly that he did when he scored that first goal and to see the mob from his teammates after he did it, just what a moment.
Yeah, it was great to see. Obviously, Bobby's was with us for a while, and it's always nice to see guys graduate up from the ECHL, score their first NHL goal, and you could just see how fired up he was and how, everybody on the team was so happy for him to finally get that goal. He was after up for a few games, and he finally got one. It was really nice to see.
And not to mention, similar to Bobby McMahon, I know he's no longer a Maple Leaf, so we shouldn't pump his tires too much, but I mean, how could you not? Mark Johnstone.
Yeah.
What a story as he played his first NHL game as a member of the Pittsburgh Penguins. And pretty sure you texted me mid-broadcast. You're like, Stoner's playing. I mean, all of us just so fired up for a guy who, talk about paying your dues. Getting cut from his first ECHL team, starting on an ECHL deal with the Growlers and working up and up and up, and just awesome for Stoner.
Yeah, and just the age of these two guys. I mean, you look at their journey, not conventional in any way, shape, or form. Two very different players, but
most definitely.
There's some comparables in the way that they kind of got there. Like you said, paid their dues. Literally, just take a look at their hockey DB, their hockey ref pages. Like, you're not going to find a lot of other NHLers who've taken the path that they have.
That's a fact.
They're both there. They're both carving out different roles, and you could just see what that goal meant to Bobby the other night. And hopefully, we can see Stoner, even though it won't be in blue and white, see him get one, and I'm sure you'll see a similar reaction. Yeah.
And I don't mind bringing that up since it was the Leafs pounding the Penguins 7-0 last week. So I think that gets us back in Treliving's good books here. I'm sure he's tuned in.
Yeah.
I think there's a few more moments here that really stood out to me. Back in the early part of December, as we were just starting to think about the holiday season, Jordan Escott, a goal and an assist, first star, got to wear the chain out onto the ice against the Mariners in the last home game, if I'm not mistaken. That was the 10th. Yep. So cool to see what Jordy's been able to do. He started off as kind of a local guy as an emergency call-up, for lack of a better term, and played his way onto the team as a full-timer and now wearing a letter, and to see that come full circle with him having a big offensive night in his home barn, first star, getting to see him come out of the tunnel and wave to the friends and family and fans. I don't know, maybe I'm just a softie, but I absolutely loved seeing that.
Yeah, I think it was a great moment. He really pulled off the chain coming out through the.
I love that. The chain, I love it.
It's awesome. But Jordy, obviously, he's been one of the local guys here who've helped these guys coming in who've never been here before kind of find a home here in Newfoundland. And I know all the guys in the dressing room really appreciate it. So it's nice to see him have a big night.
And not just that, I think collectively we've all been around pro hockey an awful long time. We've gotten to know a lot of players. I don't think I've known a better teammate than Jordan Escott. This guy, he hosts the whole team at his place. I heard, so Jordy didn't make the trip when the team went on that super long one.
Right.
The team went to an NBA game when they were in, I don't know.
I think.
Yeah. And I heard it was Jordy back home who had some sway and helping the boys get tickets. Like, it's unreal to see a guy who's still able to contribute as a member of the team and be like the best teammate when he's, I don't know how many miles that is, 3,000, 4,000. That could be completely wrong. Miles away. It just really goes to show the character of the person.
Yeah.
And that's why maybe seeing him have that huge game at home makes me go like, heck yeah, Jordy. I don't know.
No, I think that's fair. And like, if you see the way that these guys who are on AHL deals and are like big names interact with him, they don't like, they don't look at him as like a local guy who is on the team for the like.
Great way to put it.
They're equals in that way, and I think in the same way that we talk about Todd and his qualities and the way he impacts these younger players, you see the way they interact with Jordy, and it's the same. Honestly, it would be difficult to explain to somebody outside the organization the type of impact he has, and you kind of understand why he has an A.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Not much more needed to say about that one. So also in that series against Maine, the last home series here before the holiday break, to help you folks at home remember, I mean, there's one game in there I think we have to talk about, for better or for worse, and it is the return of Nathan Knoll to his home rink, a warm homecoming for Nathan. Certainly not the way I think anyone wanted that to go, but again, for better or for worse, I also think that's going to be a game a lot of people remember.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's when people look back on this season, they're going to remember being down at the Mary Brown Center, seeing Nathan Knoll do the chicken dance to Melindy to the penalty box, without getting into the weeds too much. But I mean, obviously, it's a memorable game, a memorable moment that's going to a lot of fans are going to remember for the rest of the season.
Anything to add?
Interested to see if he gets an opportunity to play again with Maine, whether that's with us or without us, and see if he can figure it out and see how it impacts the relationship between these two teams going forward, because there's a lot left to play this year.
No, absolutely. So we had to bring it up. I am certainly looking forward to the many times the Growlers play the Mariners here in this unofficial second half. But before we kind of tee up the second half, which for me is going to be a super exciting, final 40-odd games of hockey, there were a few great moments and highlights that happened off the ice as well that we wanted to make sure we gave some due towards. I mean, hard to know where to start, but for me, Chris Batstone celebrating 20 years as the PA voice of pro hockey in this city and in Newfoundland and Labrador. For me, as the, I guess, second voice behind Batstone here, I just thought that was so cool that the team went out of their way to surprise Batstone in game with the ceremony. I chatted with him after the game. He was like, why the heck is Glenn here in my booth mid game? Like, is something going wrong? Nope. We just wanted to make sure that we did right by you. So really cool to see Bats get a nod there. I mean, 20 years of doing anything is worth celebrating.
Yeah, obviously we work pretty close with
All of us
Batstone.
do.
He's such a great guy. He really deserved to be celebrated like that, and he had no clue until Glenn walked in with the plaque, and it was just great to see. He's been here for such a long time, 20 years since the baby leaves.
Yeah.
So it's been a really long time.
Any other moments for yourself off the ice that kind of stick in your mind? Maybe that big stick in your mind?
Oh, well, I have no choice now, do I?
That was too good a segue. I'm sorry.
I was responsible for putting that video out there, so I guess I should.
I've never seen you post anything so quickly from its moment of inception to being on the internet. I blinked and it was there.
Yeah, I mean, usually the intermissions are me time. I'm kind of just having a popcorn up there and stretching the legs.
Yep.
But I seen that and I was like, I mean, I would be, I'd feel terrible if the people didn't get to enjoy this to the extent to which I did. So
in case you missed it, I have no idea how. We had for Buddy Jr.'s birthday, we brought out some of his pals. Of course, the big stick, the Bologna mascot, was the first invitee, I'm almost sure. Mm-hmm. And upon his or their entry onto the ice, phew, legs to the air. And I think there were some further foibles beyond that.
We had a mascot soccer game for Buddy's birthday. And
that went about as well as you all expected.
Scored and hit that knee slide into the bench. It was electric.
So epic social media day.
Yeah, I would just say if you've ever been to a kid's birthday party, like the script's out the window. It was very authentic in that way, and like
yeah, none of this was planned.
No.
It's just one of those wonderful organic moments.
As for the big stick, like if you don't get it, I'd actually have a hard time explaining it to you. I think I was just born knowing what the big stick mascot was. Like I don't even remember where it
it's at
came
every
from.
Christmas parade.
I guess, but I don't even know the last time I've
remember
been.
it from my childhood.
No,
the
but I
mascot's relatively new.
I don't know. Maybe he greets people at the airport here. I really don't know the backstory, but he made the national news. So
I was
what are we
going to
doing
say
here?
we got some reach here.
We sure did.
Yeah. So
The salami stick, though, is what they got. Is what they call them.
All right.
Anyways,
all right. So we'll send you all the address to which you can write a letter because we all know that's just blasphemy.
Correct.
Calling it a salami stick. Also, I mean, we mentioned Buddy Jr.'s birthday, but I think kind of the big story surrounding that was the retirement of finally the official retirement of the number 92 for the original Buddy the Puffin. So the jersey will be hung in the concourse, is my understanding, at the Mary Brown Center sometime in the near future for everyone to share a moment with. It's better than hanging it from the rafters, so I like that you can walk around the concourse at the Mary Brown Center and give thanks to the entertainer who did it all for every hockey fan in this province for the last 30 years.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about bats. It's another just staple in pro hockey here, no matter the team. And, well before any of us would have worked here, we would have been hearing his voice and then seeing number 92 kicking around the concourse, giving us a laugh, a little sideshow at the game, no matter what the score was. So it's nice to see that being honored the right way, and it just all kind of wrapped in right before Christmas. It felt fitting.
No, it did. Yeah. And I know all of us, got to know Buddy and Abbo and, I've seen the evolution and, certainly a few weepy eyes in the press box, even just finally getting to see him memorialized in the right way was certainly a highlight of this first half. But I think we can look ahead to the unofficial second half of the season. By my count, 46 games left, so it's not a half season at all. It's more like 2/3 of a year. But I don't think I'm wrong in saying it's the holiday break that kind of splits your season in two. Sure. That and your All-Star break coming up in January or February. I haven't crossed that bridge mentally yet. Sure. But so I've kind of broken down the schedule and highlighted a few games that I'm excited for and maybe some games that you folks at home can be excited for as we head into the second half of the season, especially since I know it's been a popular gift item this holiday season, 2 tickets and a t-shirt. You've got to have your tickets used up by the end of February. So there's going to be a bunch of games between now and then that we'll kind of pull out of the ether here for you and help tee up what's going to be an awesome second half here. Right off the hop, let's not forget the Growlers will be playing 4 games before New Year's. So after Christmas on the 27th and 29th in Trois-Rivières, and then the 30th and 31st on New Year's Eve in Adirondack. Those are 4-point games, big divisional games, and not to mention, so I'll get really into the weeds here, I guess. There's no way we'll just rip off the Band-Aid and get into it. By my count, the Growlers have 20 games left against North Division playoff teams. So these are the games you want to circle. It's the 7 games the Growlers have, both at home and on the road, against Norfolk, the 7 games they have against Trois-Rivières, and the 6 they have against Adirondack. That's a lot of games against the current playoff seeding teams in the North Division. All 4-point games, all massively important, and will dictate who finishes where in the postseason rankings. I know it's way too early to even say the word playoffs, but I mean, let's call a spade a spade. The division's as tight as it's ever been in the 5 years the Growlers have been in the North Division. So it in my mind, makes some sense to try to weave your way through. Where are the wins going to come from? Where would you like to see them come? What are your must-win games as we head into the second half? So that's 20 games against the heavy hitters inside the division. And by contrast, only 11 games left against the quote-unquote weaker teams in the division, the teams currently under where the Growlers are sitting. That's 3 more against Worcester, 5 against Maine, and 3 against Reading. So to me, those 5 against Maine are also going to be big games because these are the games you're going to want to hope to win, expect maybe to win as you go down the stretch. Not to mention, This team has 6 combined games against the top 2 teams currently in the ECHL in the Idaho Steelheads, a 780 points percentage, and the Greenville Swamp Rabbits, maybe the surprise of this season, as 760 points percentage. So those are the weeds between the jigs and the reels. Brady, is there anything in particular that you're looking forward to now as we kind of start to look ahead towards the new year?
Yeah, I mean, kind of the same as the first half of the year where we've got so many new teams coming through the building.
Great point.
Nice. Obviously, Idaho stands out as one I'm excited to see.
Big time.
Games were really good in Boise. Like, really, really good.
Multi-goal comebacks for the Growlers, 2 wins,
5-4s and
shootouts.
Yeah. So that's one I definitely have circled, and that's right before our St. Patrick's Day as well. Always a good time of the year for us.
Sure is.
And just another note, like about your breaking down how many big North Division games we have.
Big time.
A lot of them are on the road.
Good
We
point.
have a lot of new teams in our building until April, where we get Trois-Rivières and Norfolk. Like, our road form has been a lot better. We're right around that 500 mark, which is kind of where you want to be.
All you can ask for.
Yeah. So we're gonna have to at least maintain that, because it's a lot of these games you're talking about. These Maine, Worcester, like, they've been here, so they're not coming again.
Great point.
We got to be good in their building, so you're gonna just have to tune in.
You're right. And further to that point, though, so once the Growlers, I know I'm kind of fudging the numbers to support my own point here, but I'm going to do it.
Okay.
Following these 4 games after Christmas, before New Year's, the home road split for the Growlers will be 24 home games left, 18 on the road.
Right.
Like, that's a pretty fair split in favor of the home games, in which the Growlers have on average won 2 of 3.
Right.
If that's a trend that continues and you have more home games to look forward to, that's your pathway forward. That's how you can see the light at the end of the tunnel come playoff time, amongst other things, of course. Sure. But certainly lots to look forward to as we get towards the holiday break here. Anything you think we missed here today? I think we've done a good job teeing up these post-holiday games. I think we've certainly got into the weeds about everything that went down before Christmas. What are we missing here, fellas?
I don't think we're missing much. I just wanted to note that, like, the last homestand of the season, or the last 3 set of games, is against the Emeralds. So,
yeah,
I mean, they're 1 point ahead of us in the division right now. I know it's a long way away, but those are going to be 3 big games to win at home to kind of maybe cement us into the playoffs.
I agree. And I know I'm not looking at March or April really at all yet. It's way too premature, but it's hard not to look at how many consecutive divisional games this team has down the stretch. They have like a month. I think it's 12 or 14 games or something in a row against divisional opponents to end your season. That means right up until April, whatever, when this season ends, all of these games are going to be 4-point games. They're going to be absolutely massive. So all kinds of reasons to use up your 2 tickets and a t-shirt voucher before the end of February. And if you didn't get one of those for the holidays, you can get some tickets for yourself at nlgrowlers.com. So I think that's going to do it here for our final episode of The Doghouse before the holiday break. So on behalf of Brady and Casey, I'm Chris. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for supporting the Growlers. Have a happy holiday. And don't forget, the Growlers are back in action on the 27th on the road against the Trois-Rivières Lions, trying to climb that North Division gauntlet. So I'll be on the air, as always, 15 minutes prior to puck drop, but we'll keep you plenty informed on social media before then. So until then, have a great holiday, and we will see you on the 27th. Bye-bye.